You survived a narcissist. You thought you'd walk away damaged, broken, maybe even becoming what hurt you. But here's what nobody tells you. You didn't just survive. You absorbed something. Something dark, something powerful. And if you do this right, that darkness becomes your greatest weapon. Carl Jung called it shadow integration. I'm going to show you exactly who you become when you stop running from what the narcissist put inside you and start wielding it like the warrior you were always meant to be. If you're a person who's been through hell with a narcissist and you're wondering if you're turning into them or if there's something more waiting on the other side, this video will change everything. Let me be clear about something. Most recovery advice is garbage. They tell you to let it go, forgive and forget. Focus on the positive. That's spiritual bypassing dressed up as healing. The truth? You can't heal what you won't feel. You can't integrate what you won't acknowledge. And you absolutely cannot become who you're meant to be if you keep denying that part of you absorbed some seriously dark traits from that narcissist. Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant psychologists who ever lived, spent his career studying this exact phenomenon. He called it the shadow, all the parts of yourself you've repressed, denied, or been taught to suppress. And here's where it gets interesting for those of us who survived narcissistic abuse. When you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you don't just witness darkness. You absorb it, you learn it, you become capable of it. The question isn't whether you absorbed narcissistic traits. You did. The question is, will you let those traits possess you and turn you into what you hate, or will you integrate them consciously and become more powerful than you've ever been? Drop a comment right now if you've ever caught yourself using a manipulation tactic you learned from your narcissist. Be honest. This is where real transformation begins. Carl Gustav Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist who broke away from Freud because Freud was too obsessed with sex and childhood trauma. Jung went deeper. He studied alchemy, mythology, religion, and the unconscious mind. He worked with thousands of patients over decades, and he discovered something profound. We don't become whole by becoming good. We become whole by integrating our darkness. Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Read that again. Making the darkness conscious. Not denying it, not suppressing it, not pretending you're above it, bringing it into the light where you can see it, accept it, and choose what to do with it. Here's what Jung understood that most therapists still miss. Your shadow, all those unacceptable parts of you, contains not just negative traits but massive amounts of locked potential, aggression, selfishness, manipulation, power. These aren't just bad qualities, they're neutral energies that can be expressed destructively or constructively. When you survive a narcissistic relationship, you undergo what Jung called an initiatory experience, a descent into darkness that, if properly integrated, leads to profound transformation. Modern research from 2024 validates this. A study of 184 US veterans showed that intensive growth-oriented work reduced PTSD symptoms by 49% in just 7 days, with improvements lasting 18 months. 70% no longer met PTSD diagnostic criteria after the program. Transformation isn't just possible, it's measurable, it's real, and it's waiting for you. Let's talk about why you ended up with a narcissist in the first place. And before you spiral into self-blame, understand this. Empaths and narcissists are attracted to each other because they carry complementary shadow material. Each represents what the other has repressed. The narcissist buried their vulnerability, emotional dependency, and need for genuine connection deep in their shadow. They built a fortress of grandiosity to protect against the terror of being seen as weak. As one Jungian analyst explained, in the case of the narcissist, anything that looks like nurture or empathy or attachment is frighteningly dangerous. The self must be protected from such vulnerability at all costs. You, the empath, repressed your assertiveness, healthy selfishness, boundary setting, and personal power. You learned early, probably in childhood, that these traits were bad, selfish, or aggressive. So you buried them. You became the nice person, the helper, the one who sacrifices. Then you met each other. The narcissist projected all their shame and badness onto you. And you You projected your power onto them. You saw them as more decisive, more confident, more together than you. You gave them the very qualities you disowned in yourself. Jung called this projection, when you see in others what you refuse to see in yourself. The relationship became an unconscious dance where both of you were trying to complete yourselves through the other person. Here's the brutal truth. That relationship was a mirror. The narcissist showed you everything you're capable of, the manipulation, the cruelty, the selfishness, the rage. And the reason it hurt so much isn't just because they abused you, it's because on some level, you recognize those capacities within yourself. That's your shadow staring back at you. So what actually happens during and after a narcissistic relationship? You don't just observe their tactics, you learn them. You internalize them. You become capable of them. According to Jungian psychology and modern trauma research, survivors go through 4 stages. Stage 1, shattering of the persona. Your carefully constructed good person mask gets destroyed. You discover you're capable of rage, vengefulness, manipulation, things you swore you'd never do. As one Psychology Today article put it, we say and do things we never thought possible. Your false self, the one that always pleases others, can no longer be maintained. Stage 2, confrontation with the shadow. You come face to face with your dark side. You realize you can gaslight, you can manipulate, you can be cold, calculating, even cruel. This isn't a moral failing, it's your psyche's protective response. One survivor described it. This is our shadow, our dark side, which is only awakened when we are in a situation of life and death. In a destructive narcissistic relationship, we really are facing the question of survival. Stage 3, the descent. A period Jung called the nigredo, the blackening. You question your reality, your judgment, your entire identity. You spiral, you grieve. This is the dark night of the soul. It feels like death because something in you is dying, the false self, the naive person who didn't know what humans are capable of. Stage 4, integration and individuation. Here's where most people get lost. This is where you either become possessed by your shadow, identification, or you consciously integrate it, transformation. This is the most critical distinction in this entire video. Let me share a real example. Christine, an academic healthcare professional with a stable upbringing, spent 12 years in a narcissistic marriage. She couldn't understand how someone intelligent and capable like her fell for it. Through intensive shadow work, she discovered unhealed wounds beneath her competent exterior. She realized anyone can be a target until they discover and heal their unhealed wounds authentically. Today, she's thriving and helping others. She transformed her wound into wisdom. This is where everything hinges. Pay close attention. Jung warned, a man who is possessed by his shadow is always standing in his own light and falling into his own traps. There's a massive difference between being possessed by your shadow, identification, and integrating your shadow, transformation. Identification, the danger zone. This is when you become what hurt you. Warning signs. You manipulate others and feel justified doing it. You feel no remorse when you hurt people. Everything is someone else's fault. You take zero accountability. You gaslight others, making them doubt their reality. You rage when confronted with feedback. You've developed a sense of entitlement. You can no longer feel empathy for others. If this is you, you need professional help immediately. You're not integrating. You're becoming the narcissist. Get a therapist who specializes in personality disorders and trauma. This is not a DIY situation. Integration, the path to power. This is when you consciously acknowledge your capacity for darkness and choose how to express it. Signs of healthy integration. You notice when you're being manipulative and you stop yourself. You feel genuine remorse and change your behavior when you hurt someone. You take full responsibility for your actions. You set boundaries assertively without punishing others. You're open to feedback and thank people for pointing out your blind spots. You actively work to understand others' perspectives. You practice self-compassion while holding yourself accountable. Here's the key. Integration means saying, I have the capacity to gaslight, manipulate, and be cruel, and I choose honest communication instead. You're aware of the darkness. You respect its power. But you don't let it control you. Think of it like this. An integrated warrior knows exactly how to kill someone, but chooses not to, unless absolutely necessary for protection. An unintegrated person either denies they could ever hurt anyone, naive, or hurts people impulsively without awareness, dangerous. The difference between integration and identification is consciousness. Are you aware of what you're doing and choosing it? Or are you possessed by impulses you don't understand? So who do you actually become when you integrate your shadow after absorbing a narcissist's darkness? You become what Jungian psychology calls the individuated self, and what I call the integrated warrior. Research shows empaths who do shadow work after narcissistic abuse develop 7 specific strengths. First, embodied boundaries. Before, you couldn't say no. You had porous boundaries. You sacrificed yourself constantly. After, you have unshakable boundaries maintained without guilt or apology. You've integrated selfishness, which is really just healthy self-care. Second, healthy aggression. Before, passive, conflict avoidant, walked on eggshells. After, assertive, able to fight for what matters, protective of yourself and others. You've transmuted rage into righteous power. Third, discernment. Before, saw good in everyone, trusted easily, ignored red flags. After, instantly recognized manipulation. You've learned the game so you can't be played. You've transmuted naivety into wisdom. Fourth, self-priority. Before, everyone else's needs came first. Self-sacrifice was your identity. After, you put your oxygen mask on first. You've learned that you can't pour from an empty cup. Fifth, authentic power. Before, gave your power away, needed external validation. Weak sense of self. After, internally referenced, self-validating, unshakable confidence. You've reclaimed the power you projected onto the narcissist. Sixth, emotional range. Before, only positive emotions allowed. Had to be nice all the time. After, full human emotional spectrum. You can be angry, sad, fierce when the situation calls for it. Seventh, complexity holding. Before, black and white thinking. I'm all good, they're all bad. After, nuanced understanding that you're capable of both light and dark, good and evil. This isn't moral relativism, it's moral maturity. Let me share another real transformation. A man spent 20 years in a narcissistic relationship. 3 years post-separation, after intensive inner work on boundaries and childhood wounds, he said, "I found the me that I was before her. I feel so liberated." He didn't just recover, he reclaimed his authentic self. Enough theory. Let's get practical. Here are 3 exercises you can start today. Exercise 1, the emotional reaction tracker. Every evening, spend 10 minutes reviewing your day. Ask, who triggered me today? What specific trait or behavior bothered me? Do I possess this quality I'm judging? Example, your coworker constantly brags. You're irritated. Mirror question. Have you been taught real men don't brag, so you've suppressed your need for recognition? Integration means acknowledging your desire for validation and finding healthy ways to express your accomplishments. Exercise 2. The Absorbed Traits Audit. Monthly check-in. List the narcissist's behaviors. Gaslighting, stonewalling, blame-shifting, manipulation, rage. Honestly check which ones you've noticed in yourself. Then ask critical questions. Am I doing this to control others or from a place of self-protection? Can I take responsibility when confronted? Do I feel remorse when I hurt others? Am I open to feedback and willing to change? If you answer to control others, and no, and no, you're in the danger zone. Get professional help. Exercise 3, the shadow dialogue. Weekly, 20 minutes. Identify a dark part you deny. Anger, selfishness, cruelty, weakness. Embody it. Say, I am angry, I am selfish. Write a dialogue. Why are you here? What do you need from me? What are you protecting me from? Write the answers without filtering, then integrate. This part of me is, and that's human. I can express this healthily by example. Your suppressed rage says, I need to protect us, to never be powerless again. Integration. Channel it into martial arts, assertiveness training, advocacy for other survivors. Comment below which exercise you're going to start with. Accountability increases follow-through by 65%. Here's the alchemical secret Jung spent his life studying. Darkness isn't eliminated, it's transformed into higher expression. Rage into protective power. Your justified anger becomes unshakable boundaries. Martial arts training, advocacy for others, the ability to say absolutely not without flinching. Shame into wisdom. The toxic shame the narcissist implanted becomes profound empathy, the ability to spot red flags others miss, genuine humility and a purpose to teach others. Manipulation knowledge into discernment. Understanding how manipulation works makes you impossible to manipulate. You become strategically intelligent, able to read people and situations with laser precision. Weakness into authenticity. The emotions and needs they shamed you for become your superpower. Vulnerability creates real connection. Emotional intelligence becomes magnetic presence. Selfishness into self-love. Healthy boundaries. Self-care without guilt. Sustainable giving from overflow rather than depletion. One shadow work practitioner described her transformation. I discovered selfishness was a shadow aspect for me. I feared being perceived as selfish due to my upbringing. Through shadow work, I learned to embrace putting myself first, self-care, healthy boundaries, confident assertiveness. She didn't become selfish, she became integrated. The Kybalion, an ancient text Jung studied, says, "Use law against laws, the higher against the lower, and by the art of alchemy transmute that which is undesirable into that which is worthy." Every negative trait has a higher expression. Your work is finding it. Let me share some powerful transformations that prove this works. Karin's story. After narcissistic abuse, Karin experienced what she called dark feminine emotions: shame, guilt, rage. Shadow work revealed she'd developed automatic people-pleasing patterns to survive the abuse. She realized, we really become whole when we've accessed every part of ourselves. True acceptance is of the light and the darkness. Today she runs her own brand, helping others integrate their shadows. The Thriver Framework. One survivor went from constant fear of narcissists to what she calls emotionally free. She can now discern manipulation instantly and release triggers in minutes instead of days. Her message: once we stop labeling angels and demons and claim our shadow aspects, we stop projecting persecutors on the outside. She became an integrated warrior. Clinical evidence. Contemporary research shows Jungian shadow work leads to significant improvements in anxiety, depression, and interpersonal problems, with changes lasting 6+ years post-treatment. Modern studies combining shadow work with evidence-based therapies show 70% of participants with trauma no longer meet diagnostic criteria after intensive programs. Jung saw narcissistic abuse recovery as following the classic hero's journey, an archetypal pattern that appears in every culture's mythology. You meet the narcissist, the call to adventure. You enter the relationship, crossing the threshold. You descend into abuse and trauma, the underworld. You confront your own darkness, meeting the shadow. You face the dark night of the soul, the ordeal. You integrate what you've learned, transformation, and finally, you return with wisdom to help others, return with the elixir. The narcissist is the catalyst, not the cause of your transformation. They brought up what was already there in shadow form, the power you denied, the anger you suppressed, the boundaries you never learned to set. The work is yours alone, to face it, to integrate it, to transform it. Jung's most famous quote bears repeating, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." You don't recover from narcissistic abuse by pretending it didn't change you. You don't heal by denying you absorbed dark traits. You don't grow by staying positive and suppressing the shadow. You transform by facing exactly what the narcissist showed you about yourself, accepting it, and consciously choosing how to wield it. Here's what nobody tells you. You don't just survive narcissistic abuse and go back to who you were. That person is dead. They had to die for you to be born. The survivor who does shadow work doesn't just recover. They become more whole than they've ever been. More powerful, more discerning, more authentic, more capable, more alive. The absorbed darkness properly integrated becomes discernment where there was naivete, strength where there was collapse, boundaries where there were none, self-love where there was self-abandonment, authentic power where power was projected away. You now possess something most people never develop, the capacity to hold both light and dark consciously. You understand human nature, both its beauty and its brutality. You can be tender and fierce, compassionate and discerning, vulnerable and powerful. This is what Jung called individuation, becoming who you really are by integrating all aspects of yourself, not the persona you show the world, not the shadow you've buried, all of it, the whole, integrated, authentic you. Modern research calls this post-traumatic growth, and the numbers are staggering. 52% of trauma survivors report moderate to high growth. After intensive shadow integration work, survivors show 49% reduction in PTSD symptoms, 60% decrease in depression, 54% increase in overall growth measures, and these improvements last for years. If you're watching this and you're in the thick of recovery, wondering if you're turning into a narcissist, wondering if there's hope, wondering if you'll ever feel whole again, listen to me carefully. You asking these questions means you're not becoming the narcissist. Narcissists don't question themselves. They don't do shadow work. They don't seek to integrate. They seek to dominate. You're on the hero's journey. You're in the underworld right now, but you're not staying there. The darkness you've absorbed, that's raw material for your transformation. Here's what you need to do. First, get professional support. Find a therapist who specializes in narcissistic abuse recovery, trauma work, or Jungian psychology. This is not a solo journey. Second, start one of the shadow integration exercises I shared today. Start small. Start where you are. Third, commit to the process. Give it time. Research shows real transformation takes 1 to 3 years of consistent work. Be patient with yourself. Fourth, find your community, support groups, fellow survivors, people doing this work. You cannot do this alone. And finally, remember this. The narcissist showed you your shadow. Now it's your choice what to do with it. Will you let it possess you? Or will you integrate it and become the most powerful, authentic version of yourself you've ever been? Comment, I choose integration, if you're committed to this path. Let's create a community of integrated warriors right here in the comments. If this video spoke to you, if it's changing how you see your experience, do 2 things. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to this channel because we're just getting started. We're going deep into shadow work, transformation, and becoming you were meant to be, not despite what you've been through, but because of it. You didn't just survive. You absorbed something powerful. Now let's transform it into your greatest strength. The darkness you carry is not your curse, it's your catalyst. Welcome to the other side.